It's October 18th. We have lots to do in the garden.
Welcome to MsMojo, and today we're looking at the most shocking revelations from the Netflix documentary Martha.
By that time, if you want to believe in mojo, I think my mojo was damaged.
Number 10. Stewart was the only woman at her stockbroker firm. In addition to being the face of an empire, Martha Stewart has proven to be one of the savviest businesswomen alive. Her knack for business can be traced to her early days as a stockbroker.
I started to rake in a lot of money.
She was making $250,000 a year. Clients were making money hand over fist.
Stewart's father-in-law was also a stockbroker, although women were rarely seen on Wall Street in the late 60s. Nevertheless, Andy Maness immediately sensed that Stewart would fit in at the firm, even if she would be the only woman.
I had to sort of put my arm out like that. The stuff that went on in the back seat of the taxis, I'm not even going to talk about. But they were really smart, and I learned a lot at that firm.
For the most part, Stewart not only got along with her coworkers, but billionaires as well. While she was generally good at her job, the market is unpredictable, and Stewart prefers to be in control. Upon leaving Wall Street for Westport, Connecticut, Stewart stumbled into a new career remodeling her home.
If I hadn't had Turkey Hill, I would not be me right now. But I would have been somebody. I would have been somebody else.
Number 9. Stuart Felt demonized in the press. With Stewart often promoting a flawless image, the media has strived to find chinks in the armor. Employees have accused Stewart of being mean and controlling.
You'd hear arguments with the staff. She wanted something done a particular way. Very much of a perfectionist.
It was especially damning during her 2004 trial when Douglas Faneuil, who worked for Stewart's stockbroker Peter Bukanovic, described her as rude. This fed into the prosecution's narrative that Stewart was a cruel villain, which the press latched onto.
Martha Stewart has come across as petty, as demeaning, as kind of a bad person. And you know, as much as that shouldn't matter in a case like this, it does.
Stewart took this personally, but she felt obligated to keep everything on the inside as usual. When a reporter is questioning you on TV, though, it's hard to stay composed. A New York Post writer was especially nasty, garnering no sympathy from Stewart when she died. While Stewart owns up to being strict, she thought the media went too far.
The press made me out to be a person that I'm not. I don't think I've been the mean and nasty and horrible person portrayed in certain publications.
Number 8. Stewart's difficulty as a mother. Being a homemaking icon, one might assume that motherhood came naturally to Martha Stewart. Following the birth of her only child, Alexis, Martha struggled to find footing.
I thought it was a natural thing, and it turns out it's not at all natural to be a mother.
Learning from her parents' example, Martha wasn't the most openly affectionate person. Becoming a mother didn't change that, although she did take care of Alexis. As Martha's marriage to Andrew Stewart turned sour, Alexis felt compelled to repress her emotions, not unlike her mother. For all of their hardships, Martha and Alexis would get to a good place. Alexis stood by her mother during the 2004 trial, fainting when the guilty verdict returned. Throughout Martha's incarceration, Alexis visited her almost weekly.
I'd get there the night before and then get up at about 4 in the morning and take some giant blankets, because you had to get on line out of your car in order to get a table.
Martha's relationship with her daughter may be imperfect, but it isn't without love. Number 7. Stewart's relationship with Charles Simeone. Aside from her ex-husband, billionaire Charles Simeone was arguably Stewart's most serious romantic partner. Although they never exchanged vows, Stewart felt like they were essentially married. This made it all the more painful when the relationship collapsed.
I don't think he liked hanging out with somebody in jail. He was out on his boat, floating around the world.
Among the first major signs of trouble came during Stewart's stay in prison. Simeone only visited once, but he sent his private jet to pick Stewart up following her release. Not long after, Simeone dropped a bombshell.
We had this elaborate trip planned. We were visiting the president of Iceland, and we were in bed. And he said, you know, Martha, I'm going to get married.
He wasn't just breaking up with her. Simeone was marrying another woman whose parents didn't want him to maintain contact with Stewart. While they didn't make a habit of being too open with each other, this news still caught Stewart completely off guard. It was practically a second divorce to her.
I thought that was the most horrible thing a person could do. How can a man who spent 15 years with me just do that?
Number 6. Stewart's anti-Semitic father. Martha was quick to accept when Andrew Stewart proposed.
It seemed such a natural thing to do. fall in love, get married.
After she broke the news to her father, he impulsively slapped Martha across the face. Martha's father condemned the union, forbidding her from marrying a Jewish man. Although Martha was hurt, she wasn't surprised given her father's bigoted history. With or without her father's approval, Martha asserted that she was going to marry Andrew. Her mother was more understanding, helping Martha make her wedding dress.
Had many tiny little organdy-covered buttons down the back. And it was such a beautiful little dress. Wedding day was very happy.
Martha's dad would come to accept his daughter's decision and attend the wedding, yet this is just one example of how Martha shared a complex relationship with her father.
He never looked like a drunk. He never stumbled around and threw things and broke things. That wasn't my father. But he was a dissatisfied, unhappy human being.
Number 5. Stewart's difficult upbringing. Stewart's childhood largely shaped the woman she grew up to become. For all their issues, Stewart sees much of herself in her father, who was also a perfectionist.
He loved me, and it was very obvious to everybody that I was his favorite. He thought I was more like him than the other children.
Among other things, he taught Martha and her 5 siblings how to garden. Although this would be a vital skill for Martha down the line, gardening wasn't for fun in her house.
So we had gardens, and we would trade for goods that we couldn't grow.
He stood over you like a sergeant. Mean.
Her family needed to grow food because they couldn't afford to feed every mouth. The garden was like a boot camp, and when somebody acted out of turn, they paid the price. As her dad struggled to provide, Martha found work as a model. Her paychecks went toward buying groceries. Martha watched her mother cook, which would be another essential trait.
She was a school teacher, and she had to cook 16 meals a day. I thought that was pretty fantastic that she could do all that. But the cookie cutter house and the cookie cutter life, that was not for me.
Number 4. Stewart's insider trading trial. Outside of her homemaking, Stewart is perhaps best known for her infamous insider trading scandal. Upon receiving a tip from Peter Bukanovic about clone systems, Stewart didn't think twice about selling her stock. Even after the authorities got in touch months later, Stewart and her attorneys weren't that concerned.
I did exactly what my lawyers had told me, answer everything as truthfully and as honestly as I could possibly, and when I didn't remember, I said I didn't remember, and I went back to work.
The case continued to snowball, reaching a crucial moment when her best friend Mariana Pasternak took the stand. Pasternak's testimony enforced the prosecution's argument that Stewart was a liar. It ended a friendship and arguably made the prosecution's case.
I truthfully testified as if my legal obligation was. That's why I said those words. And I looked in the courtroom and I saw Martha's eyes. You know, that cold, icy look in her eyes.
While Stewart was found guilty of obstruction of justice and conspiracy, she wasn't the only one implicated in the trading case. Some felt the prosecution singled her out because she was wealthy and a woman.
I was a trophy. A prominent woman, the first billionaire woman in America. We got her.
Number 3. Marriage and affairs. Martha married publisher Andrew Stewart in 1961. The two separated in 1987 before finalizing their divorce 3 years later. According to Martha, Andrew cheated with multiple women, including her former assistant.
It was like I put out a snack for Andy.
Did you confront her?
I did, sure I did. I kicked her out immediately. You know, what the hell are you doing?
Andrew and that assistant later tied the knot, but that marriage didn't last either. Martha wasn't exactly faithful herself, sharing what she described as an innocent kiss with a stranger on her honeymoon, and having a brief affair with an Irish man.
And it was just nothing. It was nothing. In terms of, it would never have broken up, I would never have broken up a marriage for it. It was nothing.
Martha thought Andrew never learned of her affair, although he apparently did. In any case, Martha kept up the facade of an idyllic marriage for years before finally agreeing to the divorce Andrew wanted. Martha learned a lesson she hopes young women take to heart. Don't stay with adulterers.
Get out of it. Get out of that marriage. But I couldn't do that. Couldn't walk away.
Number 2. Stewart's time in prison. Only serving a 5-month sentence, there are definitely people who have had worse experiences behind bars than Stewart. Her incarceration wasn't exactly a stay at the Four Seasons, however. Arriving at the minimum security facility, she was subjected to a customary strip search. The guards made it clear that they wouldn't be giving Stewart special treatment.
You could have been jumped. People were. Jumped, beat, beaten. Stuff like that happened. I was warned. But I was not protected.
After Stewart accidentally made physical contact with one guard, she spent the day in solitary confinement without food or water. Not that the food was very appealing anyway.
What worries me is the very poor quality of the food and the unavailability of fresh anything, as there are many starches and many carbs, many fat foods. No pure anything.
Despite the less than ideal living conditions, Stewart found friends who shared her passion for gardening. Upon release, Stewart wasted little time getting back to work. With less control of her business and TV show format, though, Stewart still felt caged.
Mark Burnett missed the point of Martha Stewart. Live audience and crummy music, and that was more like prison than being at Alderson.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Number 1. The Justin Bieber roast revived her career. Despite getting her career back on track after prison, Stewart was still at a low point in 2015. She revitalized her image through an unlikely appearance at the Comedy Central roast of Justin Bieber.
My publicist said, "This is a little bit out of your milieu, Martha." And my daughter said, "Okay, Mom, yeah, sure, go out and do Comedy Central." She said, "Have you ever watched a Comedy Central roast?" And I said, "Well, I think so." I hadn't.
Stewart initially wasn't aware that she would be roasted as well. Once she was given the chance to speak, Stewart established that she could not only take it, but dish it too.
Thank you, Kevin Hart. It's really great to be here. Oh, there you are. Sitting and listening to you yell your jokes over the last hour is the hardest time I've ever done.
Audiences were surprised to find just how funny and brutal Stewart could be. While the roast helped Bieber's image amid his legal trouble, it may have done even more for Stewart, bringing her back into the zeitgeist. It also marked the beginning of her friendship with Snoop Dogg, who supposedly gave her a contact high.
We just so happened to be sitting side by side, and my secondhand smoke, created an idea that maybe we should hang out and talk about some things.
Are there any details about Martha Stewart we missed? Say a good thing in the comments.
I have always looked for voids. What doesn't exist? What needs to exist? What can I do to help fill that void?
Do you agree with our picks? Check out this other recent clip from MsMojo. And be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.